Hello.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we are recording.
Nice.
Welcome to the Hackurate podcast. Oh, there we go. We're gonna have
Postcast.
Pastacast.
Pasta cast.
Episode 2.
Episode 2 of the Hackurate
Yeah.
podcast featuring
Aaron Howell and
I'm Nathan Goodman.
welcome.
We're back on the couch.
Back on the couch in a much better setup, much more comfortable scenario.
Got new mics.
Good equipment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you been doing this week?
Well, anyway, what I was saying earlier is I used to use mics at like church and stuff. It was always in the podium. We didn't really do anything outside of that. They would just arm it up. But if you're tiny like I was when I was a child doing it, give you a little stand up on it.
Oh, nice.
Varying sizes of like a little thing for children to stand on and deliver religious stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like stools.
Yeah, stools, various sizes of stools.
But
I like these new mics. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty cool to wield.
A really good, comfortable alternative to a condenser mic on a solid boom arm. I am not missing it. And I'm sure whomever may be listening might appreciate the better quality audio as well.
Yeah.
And, if there's any little blips or whatever, I'll clean that up later. We'll keep on moving. But I think we're off to a really good start with this new tech. It's so easy. We can make podcasts now very conveniently. So I'm very much looking forward to moving forward in that process.
To answer your earlier question, I haven't done anything this week. It's just been driving and delivering food and trying to not do a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
And eating leftovers. And I put some leftover ribs and some leftover stuffing, and it was pretty good. It's a good meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It smelled really good.
Put on whatever.
Looks like you're doing it right.
Mix up whatever in those leftovers. You just start using the leftovers. I always leave them in there, and then I'm just like, I don't want to eat that thing a second time. Wah. But then I do.
And then they're just
and I'm like,
left
this is
over.
fine. This is just as good. Why? Just eat it.
Right? It's food. You're not going to be complaining while you're eating it, so just make the food. It's very hard, though. I'm the same way. Or at least, it's like I ordered that Chinese food today and, intentionally ordered an extra side of, a large side of white rice because I was just like, I'm going to stretch this meal for my $1 because it was, I think $2 for that large carton of, white rice.
Not bad.
And, I used probably a third of it with that can of beans I just had. And shoot, that's a full protein meal right there.
Yeah.
I am not hungry at all. And it's worked out pretty good so far. That's the way Dad did it. I guess as far as doing stuff this week, we went and saw Bert Kreischer's movie The Machine yesterday. It was very funny and a really good original comedy. I was very thrilled with how good it turned out.
Yeah. It's good. I like the Russian setting was cool. It was fresh.
Yeah.
Characters were pretty fresh.
Right? Well, and since it,
It had a bunch of train scenes that I didn't hate. That was cool. I usually don't love a long, drawn-out train scene, but I enjoyed it. It was a good setting.
I feel like part of that, at least if I were looking at it from my end, it's the benefit of that train scene or scenery is that it's the scenery. It's not really a main focal point of the plot. I feel like that's where a lot of train things get really convoluted and repetitive.
Yeah. They'll get up to the top of the train and
get up to the top of the train, or someone's going to swing in or slide off the side, or go in through a window, or
and then they're dropping off. They're dropping track or carts and stuff, and they're just leaving them. I like those carts. You're leaving behind your set pieces. Just use them.
Right? They're just we don't even need this set piece anymore. We're going to leave it on these tracks. Which, I wonder how long those sets are generally when they have. It's probably I wouldn't assume more than maybe a 1/10 of a mile of track for a real train set piece, where they're using a set train where it's not an actual heavy train, or
I don't know.
Maybe that's not how that works. I don't actually know how that works.
Half the time with the train scenes, I feel like the whole thing is just in a green screen, like warehouse. And
and just shaking like a box.
yeah,
on
things
some
are shaking
springs.
around, and maybe they'll have an actual car in there that people will have to climb on and do stuff on, but it's never. Wolverine was an example, like Wolverine, the second one, where he was in Japan. It was like that was all green screen stuff. There was no train.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that
then
was definitely all green
the other
screen.
X-Men one, X-Men 4 of the second reboot was a train scene that was all CGI. It was all bad.
That was a really bad scene.
But
In fact, the only real part of that was when they had the set train come up through the ground after the train had crashed in the story.
the Bullet Train was cool. That
The
movie
Bullet
was
Train
fun.
was cool.
I enjoyed that.
That
as
was a good
set
movie.
piece.
Yeah, I
wanted to ride a train soon. That would be cool.
yeah, just to get on a train.
Just to get on a train and go in a direction.
There might be trains around here. I haven't actually looked that up.
Yeah,
I know
right.
there's trolleys
There's
in
a
Phoenix.
passenger
But
train from here to somewhere else. You mean, or just like a trolley?
just like an actual train. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any trains that come up to our city. Do you?
I don't know. There's not up here, but there's railways and places that I'm sure have been around forever.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Still
Because
used railways, but whether or not there's
supply railways.
yeah, whether or not there's passenger railways or not is
what's it
debatable.
called?
They have them in California for sure,
Not,
and they have them in other places. I took one up and back down when I went out there that one time.
Yeah.
On a plane and some trains and a car, and then back on a train in a car. I don't think I actually took a train the second time. It's like the first time though. It's definitely a train ride. And it was that train ride that everybody was like, it's the most beautiful ride in the country. And it was nighttime. So I just slept and
the most beautiful night ride you've ever had.
The most beautiful nothing is what it turned out to be. But definitely wish we had more trains to ride on and take places.
Yeah.
That'd be my preferred method of
in fact,
travel.
The only train I think I've been on in the U.S. Was in West Virginia, and it's a museum like style train where you're paying to go and like ride a little bit of this rail until you get to the end, and then you go back the same direction.
Right.
Which was really cool. And like I still remember that trip. It was, I think, myself, my mom, my grandfather. I don't remember if my brother was with us or not. So I only remember bits and pieces of just like the gorgeous, wooded mountain scenery, very green, lush. I remember they had a food car, and I was eating finger sandwiches like crazy. I was just like, wow, they've got like all unlimited food here. I was much younger. But it's very cool. Been on a few trains,
the Disney
though.
train is the one that made me think of, but that's nothing. It just goes around.
Around the park?
Yeah, around the park.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Get on and get off. It's not
that's
really
kind of like Dollywood. Oh, yeah, I guess I've been on the Dollywood train in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been on that train.
It's pretty fun. I don't think I'd ever been on it, maybe once before, but in, vague memory. But that last time I went, when I was in Tennessee in October, we went on that train. We went to Dollywood, and it was a really good time. We got to see the site where they're building their newest metal coaster. It's going to be their longest metal coaster, too. So that was really exciting.
We're trying to keep up with the times.
The only downside was the coal in the air. If you're coming around certain turns, because it's a coal-powered train, you just get a little bit of soot or smoke in your eyes if you're facing forward. So you got to just make sure, they had plastic guards in the fronts and backs of the trains, but you enter through the side, so it's basically just a ventilated, open space
water
train.
Ride.
Yeah,
it's like instead of going down a hill and splashing, you're just going at a flat place, getting blasted by soot.
Ooh, then what's the extreme? You're going uphill,
you go do a water ride and
getting
just get muddy.
That's fair. Man, that's what I don't like about water rides at places that are not splash places.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Because it's like, if it's not a water park, I don't want to get wet.
Doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to be walking around. I'm not trying to just cool off. It's hot outside. No, just deal with the heat.
That's the biggest paradox. That's the biggest paradox of going to Six Flags in Georgia. It's just like, you want to go on because they have two really cool water rides.
Yeah.
But you don't want to wear a bathing suit. There's nothing else that's really good to wear at the time, at least back in the day. Like maybe I'd wear just pajama pants these days, but I was just dumb and wore jeans. And then you walk around with like half wet jeans for 7 hours or 6 hours, however long you're there.
Yeah.
That is a mess. Or you just don't go on them. And then everybody gets off and they're like, oh, we had such a great time. We're all soaking wet. Remember that time when, and then you missed out on something that's included in your ticket price. So it's like, you might as well go and get wet. It's funner.
Yeah.
It's the funnest.
I mean, it is funner.
Funner is not good grammar.
No, it's really not. And I'm glad that you said that because we need to make sure that
it's more
grammar
fun to do
doesn't
the
just
thing.
devolve into non-speak.
If you pay the ticket price, get everything that you get involved in the ticket price.
Yeah.
Do as many rides as you can.
Well, that's the thing. Like you were describing that, and I'm just like, yeah, I was never that fun, or I don't feel like I've ever been that fun to like have that type of enjoyment with something like that, versus the utility of being like, I don't want to walk around with wet shoes. And I'm not going to wear flip flops to a park. I'm not going to wear sandals to a park. I want to wear shoes.
I don't disagree.
And that's my choice. And I understand that maybe I can't go in water rides because I have socks.
That's the paradox. Call it
a pair of socks paradox. And don't get my socks wet.
Roller coaster paradox. It's a roller coaster you get on and you never get off because it's emotional. Because your pants are wet.
So the track just like loops in and then it seals off. It bends into the track and you're just stuck.
Yep.
Like a Mobius strip coaster. Moster.
So you get to that part that's designed
to
euthanize you, where it just goes.
Oh.
Like that roller coaster
like
that
one
never got built.
Euthanization one? Yeah, that theoretical one. Yeah.
It'd be great. Imagine feeling the highest endorphins you've ever felt on the most fun water or ride, on the most fun roller coaster ride you've ever been on as a 95-year-old person, and then you just go dark. Sounds pretty good.
Well, you know,
had a bunch of popcorn that day. It's your best day ever.
I don't know the specifics of the coaster, but I would just say, if this is not the case, just right before you get to the point that, like, you know, helps ease the transition, you just go into a few loops that force the blood into your head and knock you out. Because I've passed out on a coaster before and Tennessee Tornado, but you like black out for a second and like pretty much you just like right as soon as you start accelerating into the loop, tilt your head back. And it makes it very easy. And like I did it a few times once and I was just like, this is not good. It's like, that's
never blacked out
crazy.
on a roller coaster. That sounds whack.
Like not lost full motor control and like, you know, passed out, but like where my vision completely darkens and I'm just like, ooh, and then just back at it. Like, you know, kind of when you stand up too fast, that kind of a sensation.
Yeah.
And like, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I don't remember it being so much of like that weird sea of like black mixed with iridescent, like shifting colors. It's just more of just kind of like I'm not here now. I'm here.
I like all the droppy drop ones. Those are the best. The acrophobia and
just big hills or straight ones.
Straight down.
I've still never been on one. Those scare me.
The acrophobia one in Georgia is the best because it's just magnets. So it's like when you feel it like hit the bottom, you're like, I was never in any danger.
Yeah.
Just two really strong electromagnets.
Yeah, because there's no way you're going
and then they power
into
down,
the ground.
Coming back down. But, you know, you just got to have your thing secure. If your thing is not secure, it doesn't matter. But that's not anybody else's fault but your own fault. You got to have your thing secure.
Yeah. Which is
all the stories I've heard of anything happening are just from people not having their things secure.
Yeah.
But I did the Tower of Terror in Disney World, and my dad was like, I'm never doing that. My little brother was like, I'm never doing that. So it was just me and my stepmom and my sister going on it, and it's like a whole fun experience. You feel like you're doing a whole Twilight Zone episode, and then it takes you outside, and then you look outside, and then it drops you and shakes you up and down, up and down, and up and down. And then
wait, what do you mean?
Go to the bottom. The Tower of Terror.
But what do you mean, like it drops you and then shakes you? Like what?
Well, like shows you like outside, and then like brings you back in to the tower because it's on like a track.
Okay, yeah.
And it drops you and lifts
So
you
it
back up.
so it pokes you out kind of like a cuckoo clock, and then you go back in and drop.
And you're
okay.
in like pitch blackness, and you basically just saw the opening for a Twilight Zone episode,
Oh, okay.
and then it opens, and then
And
it's
then you're
like
outside.
this is outside, and then it closes again, and then
Ooh.
it just goes down, and then back up, and then get down, and then back up, and then down.
That sounds wild.
And it's like, all right, and it's all pitch black too. It doesn't turn any lights back
Wow.
on.
Well, that makes sense for it to be called the Tower of Terror.
Yeah, no, it's real scary. Yeah, and like the whole
that
thing
just
is
makes
just
me-
about people disappearing, like at one point from a couple of like rides on an elevator. That kind of
Nice.
noise.
Yeah. No, I love the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it's pretty
Great.
legit. It's one of those things that I hate that
someone on the
I
wing.
hate that I've been, well, not that I hate. I really enjoy that. I've been to Disney World with my family, but it'd be really cool to go with some of my friends.
Yeah, no, I would love to go
Especially at
to-
an older age. I know being like a Disney adult's lame, but it's more just to like go and tool around and just be like, this is fun and wacky. And I'm not just doing it with my family or even doing it with your family and friends. It's fun, but
Yeah.
mixing up the party that you travel with is cool. For
Agreed.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and I would love to do something like that as well because, we talked about going to Six Flags a few times back in Tennessee. We never did. And I'm always just like, man, that would have been sweet. But at the same time, it's not like we were making money hand over fist out there.
Yeah. And I mean, the opportunity never came. I mean, there was a lot of times
it's hard to
where
get schedules to match up.
Yeah, there was a lot of times where like a couple people would be able to do a thing and then other people wouldn't, and it would just be like, well, we'll all just hang out in town and not do things and spare each other the time and feelings and money of whatever it all costs. But I don't know, that's kind of that like new kind of wave social thinking that we all think now that like social media exists and just the general connectivity of it all. It's like we'd rather be more connected and emotionally involved sometimes than necessarily like self-centered, which is like good and bad because sometimes it's better to be self-centered and other times it's not. It's kind of a maturity aspect, I suppose. Because some people don't have any and then they just focus on other people 100% of the time. That's all they talk about and think about, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and that's not healthy because you're not going to be able
to
develop your own personality if you're always caring about what other people are doing, which is a very strong case for you don't even have to delete your social media. Just take some time off of it and think about yourself. Just because I feel like once I really made a hard effort at that, like for me, I deleted Facebook and then tried to dial back how much engagement I had with things like Instagram. And it's not a knock on any of those types of platforms. It's just that the nature of what they do is a function of a tool. And it's like if you're, sitting in a piece of construction equipment, that is also a tool. But if you spend hours in that a day, eventually you're going to have, posture problems. And you're going to have trouble walking or, sitting time in a car. Like, it's like anything, it can hinder your health or ability to operate in the world if that becomes how you operate in total. So like things like gossip engines, in a sense, I think are what really lead to that kind of like personal mental health crises where you're like, I don't know who I am. It's like, well, because you've been paying attention to all these other people and not really learning anything about yourself.
Well, and people can always bounce back too. I feel like there's a big fear of like the loss where it's like if you're not having time to figure your own things out, then you're already losing things anyway. So you might as well take the time to figure that out and then resurface, figure out, who your friends are and then who you want to be friends with in the future and not so worried about losing anything in like the immediate sense because, we're just humans and it's like regular society for hundreds of years with people just going in and out of each other's lives. It's not like being a permanent fixture or every single like third person being your new support system, but instead it's just being friends and being like kind of neutral and growing like kind of together while also helping as much as they can.
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely think there's like there's a brighter side at the end of like a tunnel that people don't want to go down, but gotta go down that tunnel and get out
Well,
of the
because
cave.
the further you go, you I think start to understand that like, oh wow, like if I can feel like this poorly at times, then I mean other people probably do, and I know I don't like being around people, or I'm not my best when I'm in this state, and maybe that's other people sometimes too. And they're like, that's the natural state of learning to see other people's like lives as full, rich lives as well, or at least and then you can empathize with the fact that there are like other human beings like living entire lives independent of your concern. And if someone treats you like a dick, it at least helps you be like, well, you know what? That certainly might suck. But at the end of the day, you can just be like, well, I know it's not necessarily something I did. Unless it is something you did, then, own up to that as well. But,
Sorry.
If you're doing everything you can to be polite or kind to somebody and someone's just like, dropping an aggro attitude on you or calling you names, like trying to instigate fights, whatever. It's just...
This isn't very interesting or funny.
No. Well, no, it's not funny. Well, that's how we got here because we were just talking about
you like
people.
Plateaued and your voice is like hitting one note, and I'm like, oh no, is he spiraling?
I'm not spiraling. I'm just following a thought, but we can change it up.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. All right. We've been watching a lot of DC. That's been interesting. Batman v Superman. Not as bad as I remember thinking it was, and I feel like part of that might have been just me getting on the bandwagon of talking shit about it at the time, because I really enjoyed watching it. I thought it was very fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like people expect a lot of things, and then like, much like the 1 through 3 of Star Wars, like everybody came to like it more later as time passed because they looked at newer stuff and they're like, well, now this is shit. So that old stuff was pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's like we're going to get to that, I feel like, with some of this DC stuff. Like, it's quality. They put a lot of heart and work into it. And like Ben Affleck as Batman was pretty cool.
Yeah, like he, I think, had a good commitment to the character. And I had the thought yesterday. I was just like, part of what I think makes people not want to see him as Batman might just be his appearance, because he doesn't necessarily have that type of like alpha male present face that we've been expected to see in movies.
Yeah, he's not as top heavy.
Yeah, exactly. And like, obviously he like trained for that role, and a lot of it is CGI, I think, as well, or makeup or whatever.
When he's flying,
post-production,
fluttering around.
But the dude he might just not look the part to whatever our lizard brain sees, and so we're just like, maybe not him. It's just like, well, he does a good job though, and I think it's not overacted. Which, as much as I love Christian Bale's Batman, at times he can be a bit much, and I like
his puffy
Ben
lips. Really bugged me.
His puffy lips.
Like, as much as I like those movies, it was always out of breath with puffy lips and getting beat up. Yeah.
He's just like, I'm out here trying to
more skilled.
get my
I like Batfleck wasn't afraid to murder some fools.
He's like, time to bat flex.
Run him over. But I also feel like there's a thing with like movies and theaters that people will see something like once and they'll be like, well, that didn't like totally blow my mind. Maybe it's just because they got fatigued from sitting in the theater in the dark room and
that's a good
flashing colors. Like, there's definitely some movies where I'll get to near the end and I'm just like squinting and I'm like holding my ears. I'm like, this is so much. We've been in here so long. It's gotten brighter somehow and louder. A couple of Dune definitely hurt my ears.
Dune was very loud.
Dune,
sounded amazing.
I was covering my ears just to cut down on some of those highs. They were biting. Yeah, biting, exactly.
I mean, phenomenal sound work, but loud, wildly high. Hey, everybody, side thing. Check out I Think You Should Leave. Season 3 just dropped on Netflix. It's pretty funny. Definitely gonna have to go back and rewatch it many times to, I guess, really fall into the humor of some of those bits, because I feel like his stuff is always kind of a slow absorption burn where it gets funnier over time. And like, I don't know, repeat watches, I'm always just like, this he's got a lot of layers to how he approaches the people.
I feel like you really went all in on this season 2. He's in like every single
Every single skit,
every single one. Spoilers.
spoilers, y'all.
But it's good. I'm glad Netflix is sticking with like some things of quality. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's very cool. So check it out. Definitely don't want to spoil any of it. If you like the show or are interested in some pretty absurdist but phenomenal sketch comedy, I think you should leave. It's on Netflix. As far as comedy goes, I'm trying to think if there are any specials that I've watched recently that have been mind-blowing. I guess a lot of them have been very, very good. Ari Shaffir's special, I think, is probably the most artful special I've ever seen, which I know he hates people calling what he does art, or at least I feel like he's made that joke, if it is a joke. He's just like, it's not art. Come on. But I feel like that's the kind of self-deprecating comedic thing that always gets followed by, and I just tell dick jokes in front of people. It's just like, all right, can we stop going back to that trope?
I mean, they do until it's convenient to say it's an art form, which it is also. So it's definitely the paradox of the flip-flop, being able to kind of play in both of those fields.
The paradox.
Serious. It's not. It's serious. It's not. Serious. It's not. Which in that realm, then it's just never serious, which that's fine too.
I just noticed.
Just have to get used to it.
True. I got thrown off a little bit because you said paradox and flip-flop in the same sentence, and I was transported back to Six Flags. And I was like, it's the pair of socks. And then you said flip-flops. And I was like, oh no, we are back at Six Flags. We never left the Six Flags.
We're stuck.
We're just stuck in this tower of terror. It's broken down.
The teenager running the thing just keeps letting it go over and over. And he's not pressing the brakes.
You can't do that to your blood and your body that many times. It's just not good.
I'm seeing fractals. Getting all jammed up.
What do you think is your favorite roller coaster? At least favorite currently, or the last one you remember?
I mean, are we going on like replay value or just overall funness?
All right, let's rate some different ones. Okay, overall enjoyment. What's your favorite?
Honestly, I was thinking about the Superman the other day in Six Flags, Georgia, because it tilts you down.
Yeah.
And you look up, and in that aspect, every seat is the front seat because you're looking down. You're not even looking at anybody in front of you anymore. So I found that really cool.
That is really cool.
I like that. But the line was always really long. And it's one of those where, like, when you're walking up to it and you just keep getting into new zones where there's like segments of line and you're like, oh no, I'm going to get into one of these zones and it's going to be crammed. And then you finally do. And you're like, oh, this is like 15, 20 rides. And then you think about the 6 zones you pass getting there and you're like, actually, this probably isn't that bad. I'll stick around and I'll do this ride. So that one was definitely, I feel like, overall just fun. I want to go, I know there's like a Hulk one and a couple of other metal ones that are pretty neat. But there was the Riddler themed one that I enjoyed in the Six Flags in Georgia because it had a fun little like thing that you walked through. I guess the Riddler and Batman in that same zone, but you walked through and it was Batman like kind of quirky. And then, but everybody gave up on the Riddler so early on in the day that you could go there late and it would just be like nobody in line and just go once and then you get off. He pulls up to the gate and you hit the brakes and then you look at the line, nobody's there, and you look up at the teenager and he's just like, I'll let you go again and slam. And then you go again. You can maybe do that or or you'd have to get off because of the people, and then you just run around really quick.
I was about to say,
hop on
it's
a second
irritating
time.
when that happens at a place, forces you to get off
Yeah.
just to walk around.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I get maybe someone's in the line on their way up, but come on.
Right. When I was a
There's no
teenager,
one standing there.
I'd be totally down to just run around. That was cool too. Not so bad.
'Cause it's like by the time that whoever's not here gets here, whomever gets here isn't here, then you would have sent another car anyways if this was packed.
Right.
So
Right.
let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
It's like
roll.
it's only like a couple of minutes, bro. It's not a big deal. And he's like, no, I'm just doing my job, which in fairness is understandable because they're giant death machines.
Yeah.
So I understand doing your job.
Yeah.
What,
You just
what
gotta
about
follow procedure.
What's the eagle one? Don't say the eagle.
No, not the Eagle one. No, the new, relatively new Eagle one at Dollywood is cool. Very very fun metal coaster. However, not my favorite. I'm kind of torn between Montu in Busch Gardens, Tampa, which is a seated, but legs hanging metal coaster where the track is above the car and then you've got the seats hanging underneath it. That one's really fun, especially because my favorite part is right at when you get to the top of the first hill after getting hauled up from the station. You get a nice, gorgeous view of Tampa before you get swung out to the left, and then it just drops you down.
That's cool,
immediately.
yeah.
It's very cool and exhilarating. However, maybe the Hulk at Islands of Adventure.
Yeah, I want to go on that one.
And where's that? Orlando. Oof. The Hulk is so much fun because your car gets accelerated out of the tunnel.
Wow.
And I can't remember. It's got an absurd amount of loops, and you're going just so fast. It's very hard to describe, other than just maybe The Expanse when you see a ship just during a combat scene just flipping around, feeling G forces up and down and left and right.
Yeah.
It's very cool. I highly recommend it.
Right. That was when they introduced the
yeah.
Goliath at the Six Flags in Georgia. It's got no flips, but it's got the highest hill, and it goes out of the park, and it was really long. So it was brand new.
I remember the Goliath. Yeah.
You just
With
go
that
way,
tiny seat locks.
way up.
Ooh.
And then down. And then up and then down. And then out of the park, you see your car. And then back in the park. And you're just looking at all the other roller coasters man, this one makes these roller coasters look like a bitch.
Yeah. It's really I don't know. That's one of the ones that makes me super scared, but also enjoy it, just because I remember feeling constantly pushed up, like I'm trying to levitate out of my seat, and the seat locking mechanism didn't even fully cover the sides of your hips. It just kind of sat and was barely flush on either side of the
one you
the
stood,
seat.
right?
No, you sat down in a thing, but it just kind of it was almost like you're sitting with a big bowl or something in your lap. A little bit, but it just didn't have any full bar that went all the way across your body and locked on the outsides of your chair area.
Trying to remember the one where you
single bar between the legs and a circle on top.
There was one I swear where you stood. Maybe that was the Scorcher right at the front. Where you
I don't
stood up.
remember. Oh yeah, I think
Yeah, I didn't
it was
like that
right
one
next to
very
where
much.
you get in line for the Goliath. I remember that.
That one was weird.
That was a weird one.
And also the one, there was the non-coasters in Disney or Epcot, where there's one where you kind of makes you feel like you're in a glider, and it lifts you up and you don't go anywhere, but you're in front of an IMAX screen.
Nice.
And it just puts everybody on different levels and makes you feel like you're gliding around
Is it a Green Goblin one? Oh no.
No.
Right until you said the world, I was like, is this Green Goblin?
It's like a regular old glider, you're just riding on an air, thingy with a
glider.
paraglider. Yeah, whatever it's called.
Ooh.
Now I'm realizing it had
I can't remember
the guy
what
who
those are
voiced
called.
Kronk as the guy who was
nice.
everybody get fastened your seatbelts.
Everybody fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah.
I had lost it. I thought I had it, but Yeah.
Oh yeah, Joe from Family Guy.
Joe from Family Guy.
Fasten your
What
seatbelt.
does the
We'll
government have?
Take off and go on the flight of the night. That's
It's
not
Joe.
what it's called, obviously.
No,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
It's Joe.
It's Joe.
Joe.
Peter.
Nope.
So hard to do.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, I can't do that one. Maybe with some practice, but I don't know if I'm going to practice. I don't know if I can do any of their voices.
No, that's funny.
Now that I think about it. Yeah.
But yeah, I could go on and on about. I want to go on some of the new stuff in Disney World. It's crazy. There's too much. There's too much that they've built in the last 5 years since I've not been on.
Right, every
Other people's
million
dime
Star
to
Wars.
go to these things.
Honestly, to me, having never been there, the cantina seems like one of the coolest things about the entire place. The Star Wars
Like
cantina,
the
new one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The one
I
here,
hear
or
you
the
have to
one
get
in Florida.
whichever
new
one's
all over the place.
The deluxe dog cantina, the OG. I don't even know which one's the legit Disney and which one's the hack brother of Disney.
Right. I mean, they had like an old ride that they had like updated the video that you watched to episode 9 or episode 8. So instead of you flying around in the Millennium Falcon from episode 6 and watching some super old busted footage, they like updated it to being like, oh, now it's the new robots and the new ships flying around the Millennium Falcon fighting the First Order.
Now, did they just reskin it like some sort of Call of Duty bullshit?
That's all they did. Yeah. Reskinned it, probably updated the shocks, and then just threw everybody in the. And then now all that's gone. Now they've just they have like a whole new Star Wars land. Got like the Pandora area. It sounds great.
That sounds pretty cool, yeah.
It sounds cool to just go and see. I don't want to hang out and make it a whole lifestyle, but
you don't have to. And for me, the only thing that's not appealing about the idea of going to Disney frequently is just, it's how many times can you go to an amusement park? It's like the same thing as going to a coaster park in my mind. But I know I haven't experienced it. I know there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
But I also though feel like, there's a huge adult side to it where it's the stuff from Pandora, Star Wars in general is largely for people who are older as well, because that's the generation that grew up with it. And,
yeah,
doesn't have to be viewed as a childish thing, I think, in the negative.
Well, and I also feel like they're not they were doing so good at getting people to turn it into not a cringy lifestyle where you could do it, spend a moderate amount of money and do it regularly. But now it's you need to spend a lot of money and maybe you do it way too often like that. You remember when we learned about the Star Wars experience, you were basically trapped in a hotel and they took you on a 4 or 5 day Star Wars storyline.
Whoa. I didn't know
we heard
that.
about it. We heard about it on a podcast on, I think, Tim Dillon's podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
Where he talked about it. It's been a while. But that's
been a while.
It's dead.
Right.
It's dead.
Yeah, it's dead.
Nobody was.
Well, it sounds like you're kidnapping people.
Yeah. All the reviews were basically that. They felt like they were hostage. They couldn't leave because it would break the experiential factor. And it's that doesn't even sound like a fun time. That sounds like a weird, a horrible escape room where everybody's making stuff up. At least in some escape rooms, it's nonfiction. Imagine being trapped in a fictional escape room where you don't know stuff.
Why else?
Everybody's telling you to care about these random things. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre pitch.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, why else do people go to places like entertainment parks willingly? Because they know they can leave.
Right.
Right. They're not going there expecting to be hey, you have to stay on this scary roller coaster the whole time.
Right. We used to go. Yeah, that's funny.
That's what the food's for. The scenery, the benches.
Right.
They make benches so you can be you know what? I'm gonna take a minute.
That one area that always looks like a carnival or an old timey town, just to give some of the old people a little sense of
Yeah, sense of the
little sense of
past.
the past.
Yeah,
And
what will that look
calmness.
like in Dollywood in 50 years? You think Dollywood will look the same, or it'll be like some more currently modern stuff now, present day, but to them, the past?
Right. And I honestly think
How's that going to change?
I think like you need dead zones in your parks, because like what if people just need time to get away from the crazy
And
crowd?
the sound.
And
It's
it's not
definitely the
always
sound.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. Like there's always going to be a crowd in an area, so you might as well have an area that might be a little defunct, but there's still something there
Yeah.
that people can go and sit and breathe, even if there's, statistically there won't be that many people going over to that area, because typically people just want to stick to their schedule or go to like the bathroom and chill or go and get a drink. But instead you could just go to the defunct area that's chilling, doing nothing. I found there was
You got to have negative space.
in the few trips we went to,
Not negative, but negative
to
space.
Disney with my parents before they did all the renovating. Not my parents, Disney.
Yeah.
Like when I got to see like how it was before all the new stuff, it was like there was always a defunct area in one of the parks where you're just like, there's not much going on here. But it's kind of nice to be away from like a half-mile long line of people.
Yeah.
And it's nice to find a corner where there isn't like a restaurant carrying the same 10 things as every other restaurant.
Right? You're like, wait, that last place was a Chinese spot, and this place says pizza, but there's fries and burgers.
But the last place had the pizza, and this place has the same Chinese dishes.
What is going on?
They're themed areas with the same food. The only areas that I felt like were way different were when they actually like made an effort, but those are the defunct areas because people stopped going there. Like,
man,
I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was interesting because, something that I want to explore if I ever make it to Japan are like the abandoned theme parks, because there's apparently a bunch of them in weird places, and they just leave them. They'll put them up and then hope that they work, and if they don't work, they just like let them fall into disrepair. So it'd be interesting to like crawl around and look and be like, try not to get tetanus, but just be like, look at what was a thing, and then they just let it kind of go all to hell.
Why wouldn't they
it's not a tourist attraction either?
Why wouldn't they repurpose it? Turn it into like Gundams or something. Use that metal, Japan. You've got a small amount. Wait, just hear me out. You've got a small amount of like land. You got to use all of it. So tear down these theme parks, and you can do two things. You can make new real estate and giant robots. I see that as win-win.
I don't care about the real estate. We'll just build up the robots, maybe, and go back for those materials later. That
seems so wild. Or you just have an entire theme park and you just let it
post theme park era Japan. Well, it'd be more like
wild.
It'd be more like,
I'm sure we do that in the US too.
It'd be more like if every time you see like one of the little like pop-up carnivals in a parking lot, if they were just like, fuck it, and just left it there.
Oof.
But if instead of being in a parking lot, it was just like in the woods.
Right.
And they were just like, we'll pop this up. And then one of the things like killed somebody. And they were like, can't, we're not coming back here. Don't touch it. Don't touch anything.
Avoid liability. That'd be an interesting like plot to like a movie where you have a carnival set up outside of a mall. And then like, on the day it's supposed to open, people show up and it's just like, oh, there's no one here. There's no carnies. There's nothing. It's just empty. And then, I don't know, some sort of like supernatural thing would have to ensue maybe, or like, I don't know, a curse thing that's not necessarily
slowly turns
like
them
a
into
ghost
the
thing.
carnies.
Oh, yeah. You suddenly find yourself working for the carnival.
Yeah.
And you forget that you've been working or something. No, I don't like that. Let's pull that back.
No, it's another Twilight Zone scenario where everybody just gets
it's happening, but when you try to communicate it to guests, because at some point it's going to hit a critical mass of employees. So it's like whoever's an employee is stuck working for the carnival. It's like a year-round carnival. They're like, oh, this is weird. It doesn't ever leave. And then like, the employees can try to like to them communicate to people and be like, hey, help me, I'm stuck working for this. But all the people see and hear is just like, step right up, you got your thing. So the people, wherever they go, they're like, I think positionally, locally there, but the perception of communication is wildly different for different parties. Something like that. Sounds like an SCP thing. Are you familiar with those?
What do you mean?
It's like I always feel like it's weird to describe. It's just a bunch of like a blend of like cryptozoological and other strange phenomena or objects or creatures, and like it's a big like nerd culture sort of like, I think, internet culture like subgroup of just horror. It's like these files, these SCP files. It means secure, contain, protect, I think.
Oh, sure.
And there's just like, each one, their numbers, designations. There's like one of the most popular ones is this thing called like Shy Guy that like you can't look at directly, or if you even like see it at all, then it's going to do anything in its power and can pretty much go through anything to kill you. It's, and like, there's an extended storyline to it where there's someone accidentally once took a photo of a hiker in the Alps, and the thing took up 4 pixels in the photo, but if you see that photo, like it can still like know that you see it, and it comes and kills you, like so weird stuff like that. And it's pretty eerie, like some of those stories are just like eerily like conceptions. They're created well enough to where you feel like, oh man, that's glad that's not a real thing, at least in our world, kind of a thing. How do we get on this subject?
Like cryptic files, you mean?
Yeah, like
so cryptid.
Yeah, I was about to say
So you mean
cryptid
like
files.
so basically the carnival is full of people that are sentient, but they can only be seen as carnival
employees,
people.
yeah, to the outside
But
world.
how did they get trapped originally? Was that though?
Maybe
is the story
when
the
the
origin
carnival
story, or is the story people getting brought into the fold and other people trying to break out? I guess that's the story.
Maybe that's part of it. Yeah, no, it's like, so when it first shows up is when it first like just takes over. So it is empty when people first show up, and then a few people venture in, and like, I don't know, they maybe they go into a specific like building or something, and then they just suddenly find themselves waking up there. Maybe they get grabbed by like a weird custodial like sort of like spirit, or I don't want to say spirit because that makes it sound like we're talking about ghosts, but like some custodial being that watches over it that looks like a clown. It's not really a clown, but looks like a clown or something like that, or just a regular carny. Maybe it's just the general manager. It's a smiling, friendly guy. He's like, hey, come here. Welcome. Step right into the tent. We'll get you some tickets. They walk in there, and then they just wake up like as an employee. But they also like, I don't know, maybe they don't have volition over function, like motor function or speech in the perceptive sense, like beyond doing their job. So
Right.
they
So
can
it feels like a
they can
Groundhog
actively
Day.
do their job better and
Yeah.
do their job willfully, but if they try to break that script, then they have no control over themselves.
And just do like a base job level of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right? It could be a thing.
Definitely fun. It's a good
Right.
plot. I don't know how you probably wouldn't even end with anybody breaking out, just people getting fully brought into it.
Yeah, no, it seems like a world permanent or world ending sort of like, I don't know, like curse or location, like a random something like Skinwalker Ranch or the Bermuda Triangle, just a weird spot that you can't quite explain. It's next to a mall though. So there's like, is it J.C. Penney's? Is there a Penney's? Does that still exist? J.C. Penney's? Is that still a store, or a Belk? I don't know what's still
Belk.
around, but
Belk still
there's
exists.
a Belk in that mall. There's a Cinnabon in that mall. There's all sorts of, there's people right there next to this enigmatic horror.
No way. It's got to be a traveling carnival that shows up randomly. Can't stay
Oh,
in
so it
one
doesn't
place.
stay in the one spot?
Then people would just be going missing in this one town. Unless it doesn't happen that often. Unless it's just rare that people go missing.
Well, because like I'd imagine they just live out to their old age and then they just die there and whatever's there consumes them. But I like the idea of it still moving around town. So
Yeah.
like wherever it shows up, if it needs new employees, it replenishes employees.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, oof, yeah. So then like people could like, interact and like maybe they find one way to communicate with people who have also been there for a long time or
So
something.
it also makes the carnival like malicious.
Yeah.
It travels. Like it wants to bring in new people instead of just.
I mean, it wants to
sitting
be
there
successful.
Bringing in things. Yeah. It wants to grow. It wants to have new exhibits.
It's like I said, they can do their jobs well.
It's actually quite a capitalist-minded, haunted place. It is very set on having always a profit and making sure they're paying everybody fairly, even though they can't leave. I guess they're not paying anybody. So strike that last bit.
Yeah, you're not getting paid at this carnival, but it's not actively killing you. So, that's got something working for it. But I'm trying to imagine now being stuck in that situation. Like say you don't like, I mean, I was saying the other.
I can't stop imagining cabin in the woods type stuff too.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Well, I mean, because it's kind of that idea of like the malicious environment coming after you. So you can use that as like a framework of like, I wouldn't even probably get it started.
But it's not other people though in that situation. In this situation,
yeah, it's
a thing that is
just the stuff. It seems really fun, and everybody's like, it's great, and then you get trapped or something. Something happens.
It just exists, and that's I think also something that we could focus in on just more with creativity as a society and making our horror stuff doesn't have to be part of like other existing stories. You can just make something up. You could have a haunted shoe. You put it on, and for some reason you can run faster than anybody, but it comes with a price, some sort of thing. Like
it's just monkey paw stuff, or not monkey paw, but like that.
Like that episode of Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Well, because that's a play on just cursed objects.
And that's what everybody was joking with Stephen King for a while, where he would just be like, "This is ghost plant, whoa," and they'd be like, "Give us 3 books."
Or I mean, how about?
But I haven't seen like enough of the. I feel like people have been saying horror is going really well right now.
It might be. I don't consume a lot of modern horror because none of it. When I see, like most of the trailers are not interesting enough for me to be like, oh, I want in. And when it seems to be a trailer that's like descriptive, it's usually over the top, and it's just like I know half the plot.
Right,
like,
or it's like a franchise, and you already know that plot too.
Yeah.
So you're just watching it purely for the on-screen. That's scary.
Yeah, well, it's like
which I know a lot of people also enjoy, just the visual aspect of it.
I certainly don't mean to like shit on whatever's out there right now because I know there's a lot of good stuff that exists. I just probably haven't been drawn into it and haven't seen it, haven't been attracted to it. But I've enjoyed quite a few horrors recently. I finally got to see Friday the 13th. That was an interesting experience. Being in different sorts at the time, that was wild. Finally watched Nightmare on Elm Street, which, it really is weird how that became a film, I think, in general, because it just wasn't scary. It was just like, this is like the danger of trying to take justice into your own hands and burning this rapist. Like, this was weird. I'm like,
you mean Friday the 13th?
No, that's Nightmare on Elm Street because Freddy is, spoilers if you've not seen it. He was like a pedophile, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just like, of course, this town like tried killing him, but I think the way it goes, like they tried like burning him alive, and it killed him, but it cursed him. And it's just like, how did this whole town fuck up this justice system? Just take him to the cops, get him fucking locked away. He'll get murdered by the people in the prison.
Yeah.
Just get him in there.
I mean, ultimately, the weakness of a lot of these people in those scenarios is they're in a small town and nobody knows what's going on.
That's
or
fair.
how to deal.
Well, and I guess when you're dealing with people just dying
Can't
in their
communicate.
dreams.
It's all walkie-talkies and AM radios.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Far range walkie-talkies.
Yeah. I had not actually considered the communication aspect, which I'm sure really affects, I guess, well, even
efficiency.
just the efficiency, and even like the fact that the movie was made during that time is probably like just such a nightmare. Yeah.
But that's how
how it affects like how that aspect of the culture being that at that point.
I really enjoyed the only ones that I've like consumed, and they're more suspense anyway, were the Final Destination movies were like, because it was just like an inevitability thing. There was no monster. It was just like death chasing you because you didn't die like the day before.
You avoided your
so it was kind of
or something.
It was kind of a more of a thing where you couldn't really even do anything about it. You couldn't really make a call. You couldn't go to the cops.
Yeah, like what do you do? Be like, Dad's following me, and they're like, "Are you a drug dealer?"
Yeah, you just have to hide in a room. Yeah, like, we're gonna need some more concrete evidence, or like a man, like who is this?
No, it's literally death. All of my friends, everywhere I've been, all of my friends have died in horrible ways. Like,
is it a gang?
Are you killing your friends? Yeah, who's gonna believe that? Nobody. Nobody's gonna believe you. That's a good point. I never watched those, but like, I don't know. It's one of those things I think I just, at the time, thought it would just be too much violence for no reason. And like, just generally had also been like, I didn't watch a ton of horror when I was growing up, so I just assumed I was just like, that's just not for me.
Right. No, same.
But, but throw a sci-fi twist on it. And like, I watched, Alien and Predator and, Star Trek, Cube, like things that have some horrific stuff in it, but it's just like, oh, sci-fi. It's different. Sci-fi horror. Different genre, I guess. But, Cube is probably one of the more fucked up genres, or like, I guess, pieces of media I think that I've watched where it's mostly just like, it's like Saw, kind of. But it's just, the twist is, it's like, oh, you're in nondescript rooms that have a door on every wall and the floor and the ceiling, and like some rooms have traps that kill you in pretty horrific ways. And then, spoilers, you eventually find out near the end of the first one that it's a prison. And that's about all you find out in that one. But yeah, it's one of those where it's interesting to think about. You're like, what would I even do in this situation? Would I just want to sit in a room? Or would I even be like, brave enough or dumb enough to even like, waking up in a room to then even go into the next one to be like, what is this? Like, because basically people
really
get their minds wiped too.
Yeah.
I would believe. So yeah, you're just like, it's an interesting, you're just like, you're a mouse in a box without food or water. So it's just like, what do?
Sit there as long as you can tolerate it, because the alternative seems worse.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing.
It's like, go mad or get tortured, or go mad and enjoy the torture. I don't know. Maybe
it's like,
that's the
I guess I can't enjoy gory movies unless they make me think about it. About why it's why it's happening. It's like, even with Alien, I'm always just like, man, like, what is the ultimate problem that the humans are having in grasping these situations and dealing with them? Because like, you've got the tech, but fundamentally the flaws. I've consumed enough alien media to know that it's usually the people making stupid human decisions based 100%. Off of poor thinking because of the fear element. And it's just, just thinking about that. Like, that's far more interesting than, I don't know, ghosts. Which, I've watched a few creepy movies. Like, I think I watched The Conjuring with Conjuring. The Conjuring. It's a political court thriller about the porn industry.
Who's the daddy?
Who is the daddy?
Decided by jury.
And you're new guest star Pete Davidson.
Like, we're here to talk about the cum juries meeting today.
We
to
just
talk about
want to know the father.
who's the new father of these babies. The cum juries getting together to talk about the father of these babies, and we're gonna find out today on The Conjuring. Conjuring.
Conjuring. But yeah, so I've seen The Conjuring. Conjuring. God damn it. I've seen The Conjuring, and it was pretty creepy. But, you know, there are just some things that I think are really goofy about those styles of horror, especially, you know, I know it's been done more than once. The light bulb spinning around, like the light bulb that just hangs from a single rope or cable. Yeah, and it starts spinning around in a 360 motion, usually on, obviously in that situation. Really cast a big shadow effect. That's not scary. I'm like, what's this ghost doing? Well, like, this is not like. I feel like, you know, we've talked about this before, obviously off air, where it's like, I think my problem is like I need to know why things are happening. It's got to have a reason. And if I want it to be like if you're supposed to be horror, go all the way and make it like crazy, like realistic, like the odds of you beating some sort of otherworldly entity are very null in my mind. Like stuff like that. Like I don't want it to be like, oh, this ghost playing with some lights and moving, pushing some stuff around.
Yeah. Or just like watching a person go crazy for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like that's not fun either.
No, it's not.
In my opinion, that is not a movie worth watching, going and seeing in theaters or enjoying.
Agreed.
But I'm sure to some aspect or like a cerebral way, if it is some kind of angle, but when it's just weird curse stuff, I don't know. It's not even like that. It's not scary. I'm sure it's scary when you watch it, but it's not the kind of thing I want like rattling around in my brain.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like sometimes when it seems like the images that are being depicted are more intended for the value than for the story, then, you know, you might get me and like, congratulations, you've made me really, really uncomfortable, but it doesn't make me like the movie. You've got to make me uncomfortable or afraid or whatever, and still give me a reason why that's happening that makes sense for the story to me. And you know, I definitely don't want to seem like we're talking more shit. You know, maybe we should let's just write the cum jury. But I just that style of horror just doesn't appeal to me. It's like The Ritual. The Ritual was scary, very scary. And it was something I'd not seen before in the sense of like it was kind of spiritual, but is in a different setting, is a different, you know, source material of being, I think it was Norwegian. These guys go hiking.
I saw that one for sure.
They go hiking and encounter that weird antlered, like human body spirit thing. Spoilers, sorry, y'all. It's been out for a long time. The Ritual. Yeah, that really freaked me out.
Yeah, but it's a good story.
It was a good story.
That was just a good story.
It was a story about friends trying to, like, you know, honor their friend who got murdered, and it ended up turning into a horror in a way that was like, the magical realism. That's a good way to put it. It's like it felt real. It felt remote. It felt like everything in the story applied to what it was supposed to do, and it didn't feel overdone. Because like they pretty much, as soon as they start encountering stuff, things happen very quickly. With that one, where it just goes sideways. It's like they're walking a lot of suspense, and suddenly it's just like, oh, we've got this thing following us, hunting us, and we don't even know why. Because they just stumbled on its trail. It's like you encounter an animal, and it's just like, oh, you walked onto this, the land belonging to this deity.
But weren't there also some like worshipers there too?
Yeah, there were some worshipers there too at the very end, and it's just like, oh, of course there were some worshipers because it's an old style deity, and it's got to have people worshiping it because that's kind of how the lore goes with. I don't know. I feel with like anything that's grounded in older like human traditions, they feel scarier to me. Except for the witch thing. I watched The Witch, or The Witch, but it's 2 V's in the title, and it just didn't land for me. It felt too forced in a lot of ways.
Well, but that's exactly on, like, if you watch that new, like we watched that new movie, The Troll, and it was bad. But if you watch the old movie, Troll Hunter, is a way better movie because it's like very like Blair Witch style hand cameras and stuff happening, not necessarily like off screen, but in like heavy mist and fog and stuff. But it was a much bigger, like old world creatures that they were experiencing and seeing instead of any kind of like modern,
Yes.
kind of angles. Like it was just the old angle. It was like, look, it's there. It's a big creature. This guy's trying to kill him, and we're watching it. That was the whole story.
Yeah. Story as old as time.
Instead of that new movie where they tried to make it scary and it wasn't scary at all. They were just modernizing the troll myth. So I don't know what we're doing out here.
Well, and it didn't make it scary. It made you empathize with the troll more than the people who were
100%.
like, how do we deal with this thing that's up and moving around? Which I remember, with the story, like obviously the humans, like, spoilers, the humans killed the troll's whole family. So of course the troll's angry and the humans kind of deserve to have some comeuppance. But it was other generations, I think, too. So it goes back to being like, well, are we going to keep forwarding the, begetting, human wrath on monsters in movies now?
Yeah.
Like, can we please stop that?
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
let's have some new original stories.
It's either
please.
we just keep getting fucked up or we fuck up them. But
I mean, like, that's why I love sci-fi. You know it, and everybody's going to know it. It's just, you got to still be humans, but just you're doing new stuff. You got to do new things, and you're doing it in the future, or, you've got new technology. Like something fundamental has changed about the world around you, but it's juxtaposed with the humanity, and that's why it's so good, because you got the best of both worlds, but not in every sci-fi case, of course.
Yeah.
Like sci-fi originals with that CGI that's classic to their style is, real bad. But then you look at The Expanse and you're like, hey, this is the cream of the crop. I nailed it.
All right, I'm ready. We're at like an hour 7.
Ooh, all right. Well,
Crushed it.
Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Go ride a roller coaster. Find some good movies. Get scared or not. Watch some sci-fi. Check out The Expanse. Got any plugs? You want to plug your Instagram? No, we'll wait on that. All right.
I'm not posting enough for it to matter.
That makes sense. All right, y'all. If you want to check out mine, it's at Entity, ENTITY 1147. That's it. I'm Aaron Howell.
I'm Nathan Goodman.
This has been Hackurate. Thank you.
Bye.